As we can see, today's discussion encompasses three key segments, that is gender, society, and media. And when we say media, it is not only limited to news channel, but it also includes popular media like cinema, that is Bollywood film industry, vernacular film industry, television industry, which includes teleshops, reality shows, print media, social media, and other new media platforms. So in today's discussion, we are trying to explore how depiction of women in media, be it positive or negative, can be helpful in amplifying the issues related to gender and social empowerment. And also, is there any grievance redressal forum available? Now, I would like to invite Mr. Noor Alam, the Executive Director of MARG, why this topic of discussion is important and how MARG is closely associated with it.
Thank you, Pankuri. Uh, as we can see, today's discussion, it encompasses three key segments. So gender, society, and then media. And of course, we will be talking about a depiction of women in the media. But how Mark see it as a kind of challenge, I'll just try to sum up in 1 minute here now. So Mark has been working from last 35 years, and we, as a journey, of our intervention, we see uh, beginning from the mass migration issues, and then highlighting the issues of legal awareness, and then issues of gender empowerment, gender rights. So we see media as a very helpful tool. Through our publication, through our audiovisual platform or medium. We have Bol Basanto series of 10 episodes, and it was screened on television, Doordarshan, and also initiative like Aapki Kacheri, which was instrumental in like letting people understand the importance of rule of law. So when we utilize those platforms, it was helpful for us to amplify the voice. Not only in the past, in contemporary work intervention initiative we are doing nowadays, program like Marg's Harsingar initiative or Parijat initiative, we have seen that these all interventions were, of course, women led, and their role, active citizenry, and then how they can ensure good governance in their locality, access to civic rights, and all. We have seen that good practices of these women and their success stories were very successfully galvanized by media, and they were able to give that message, say for example filing RTI, and then filing RTI, how can it be instrumental. So this kind of story, if you are doing, and you are doing with yourself, and you're not telling to the outer world, so it will not so much of work. So media actually were helpful. But in contemporary scenario, if we see, as Pankuri has already said, that we don't see, or we see very less, satisfactory kind of situation. So in today's discussion, I hope Ma'am Masmi Bhattacharya ji would be guiding all of us, and telling more about all this nitty gritty, because this issue is itself very huge and very large topic. So this is the beginning, ma'am, and I hope that we will be like conducting similar discussion, and further understanding all those challenges which can be helpful in gender and social empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to introduce our distinguished speaker with us, Dr. Maushami Bhattacharya. She's an associate professor in Visva Bharati Institute, Santiniketan. Her master's and PhD in journalism and mass communication are from the University of Calcutta. She was attached with the Center for Culture, Media, Governance, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi as ICSSR postdoctoral fellow. She has been selected as a scholar by the US government from India for the coveted studies in US Institute in Journalism and Media Program, 2016. She also received a prestigious postdoctoral research grant by the International Association of Women in Radio and Television. Her specialization includes new media, science communication, audience research, gender studies, convergent journalism, and mobile communication, for which she was nominated from India in the scientific committee of the Symposium on Asia-US Partnership Opportunities organized by US Atlanta. He is one of the pioneering members of the Young Leader think tank of Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, Germany. She has also been involved with the formulation of the Youth Agenda of India by YLTT. She was nominated from India for an international learning project for shaping globalization held in Bonn, Germany in 2010. We welcome you, ma'am, and we really appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion with you. I would also like to further add that the participants we have today with us are advocates, academicians, students, researchers, and social workers. I welcome all the participants. I would request all the participants to bring question and write the question in chat box. We'll be taking those questions after the 45 minutes of discussion. Now, I would like to request Dr. Maushami Bhattacharya to elaborate further over this discussion. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pankuri. Good afternoon to everyone. And I'm so very thankful to Mark that you have invited me for this thing, though maybe this topic might sound cliche, but we know that how important this kind of discussions are, especially with the students and all. So without wasting any time, I think I should get into my deliberation, which Pankuri has already stated, like I would like to discuss it. And I have divided my deliberation in four parts, actually. Like, so the way things are being happening and the way we can see from the theoretical, academic perspective and the current scenario in the nation-wise and international scenario. And you know, there are a few rays of hope, actually, few organizations which are guiding us. So I would like to describe a few points from their end also. So thank you again. So to start with, I should do justice to this festive season also, amidst trying time. The month of October, as we all know, that it marks the beginning of the festive season in India. Though celebrated under different names and over different time span, the central aspect of celebration is the same. And ironically, like the topic we are discussing, which is very closely related to this festival, which we are going through just now. From Navratri to Durga Puja, from Dashera to Diwali, all festivals aim at paying obeisance to the victory of good over evil. Interestingly, it is the universal mother whose different forms are worshipped by the entire country over October and November. Sometimes it starts from September also, it's true. So be it Durga, be it Sheravali or Kali, myriad names, but one form. So they incarnate in their powerful and destructive forms to protect the world from everything that is nefarious, heinous, and destructive. Hence, each of these deities is depicted slaying the wild to protect the world and its citizens. So by participating in festivities and adhering to religious ceremonies, people symbolically demonstrates their respect and gratitude to the mother for granting an environment which is safe, secure, and free of vices for themselves and their near and dear ones. Women, being instrumental in creation, sustenance, and demolition, are the underlying message these festivals actually convey. It is, however, ironic that those willingly surrendering to mythology induced protective and powerful woman forms find it difficult to extend the same outlook to women in reality. Those who do not hesitate to eulogize mystic womanhood as the savior from all evil also do not hesitate to subject women of their families, neighborhood, and societies to deplorable treatment. One aspect of popular festivals like Dasera and Durga Puja, they strikingly underline the inherent and deep running dichotomy which plagues around our thoughts and actions. In a country like India, where religious and mythological sentiments exerts significant influence on psyche of people, the kind of double standards evident in treatment accorded to women is really baffling. And the deviance gets magnified when one considers the way media has been projecting women traditionally and even now. So with this backdrop, I want to discuss a bit of feminist perspective of women in media. Though divergent in approaches, the three studies overwhelmingly underlines how media is more focused on projection of women, their bodies and self, rather than other aspects of womanhood and their position in society. The consistent and all-encompassing presence of media closes all probable gaps through which women can avoid being exposed to such skewed messaging. Hence, they remain exposed to constant bombarding of what an ideal woman should look like, what their nature should ideally be, and how they should conduct themselves in society. That this is existent reality at all times is not predominantly the case. Media does construct a perceived reality aided by different factors and attempts to influence women viewers towards the latter by pushing hard enabling perceptions. While some women are able to withstand such societal and media pressure and attempts to imbibe perceived reality at the cognitive level, others become susceptible to such pressures. Such women viewers either consider themselves better than role models shown or inferior to them. The former gives rise to positive cognitive and emotional reactions, while the latter drives them into unhappiness, frustration, and lack of self-esteem. So, and at this point, I would like to discuss the relationship between women and society. So, contrasting the role media plays in reality are expectations from it. The divergence is underlined by H. Patwari, researcher, who held that media and communication undertakes are vital channels for percolation of knowledge and build up awareness about gender issues plaguing society. Media has the potential to become instrumental in elevating positions and contributions of women in societal and national context, motivate public to focus on gender marginalization and work towards its resolution, and also through provision of an ideal work, environment, and opportunities for growth. As is evident from the discussion so far, media is an omnipresent, persuasive, and consistent channel of communication, be it in the form of print, electronic, radio, or social media. Media is present everywhere and connects with everyone. Thus, messages offered can be expected to leave their mark on how women feel about them and how society and nation feels about them. Perceptions, attitudes, outlook, and norms constituted to regulate women behavior are all influenced by media messaging. Researcher Patwari also highlights the variance in position of women in society with time. Holistically, it thus becomes important to understand how women are projected by media and the extent to which media creates opportunities for intake of women in different positions. Media can evolve into a channel leveraging which women can interact with the world and share their feelings, angst, and talent, and thus re-emphasize their social relevance. So this study has also shown that resources should be allocated to women to aid them in the work areas. When they make beneficial contributions, it should be projected strongly by the media. Consistent efforts at this can slowly trigger alteration in social psyche. However, if media gets involved in appearance-oriented evaluation and coverage, it can strengthen objectification of women and set off anxiety or depression reactions in the society. Researchers have often engaged in effect of gender stereotyping. So many discussions have been taken place on this. So in reference to valuation of women depiction in media, W. Lipman explained it as a route to establishment of attitudes and beliefs about certain aspects common among members of a societal or gender group. Stereotyping exists among different class and status of people. It takes shape from the culture the group has been exposed to and also the pedigree associated. Circulation of stereotyping happens via family, society, peers, groups, and of course, media. Passing on the stereotypes has been mostly verbal and inculcated deep through learning process since childhood. Media has a pivotal role in its ingraining into the social fabric, providing it immortality of sorts. This brings to significance the way gender is presented by media, for it can lead to continuance of negative stereotypes about gender. Women movements in support of claim for political, social, educational, and civil rights have, via this, tried to move patriarchy from state of inertia about adverse fallouts of stereotyping. Traditionally, women have been expected to take care of the family and home and keep out from discussion. Patriarchy was involved in. Risking their lives, they continued giving birth to offsprings, having denied the right to voice their needs. They were not involved in financial matters of family either, irrespective of the scale of their economic and contribution to family. I'm not being general here, but in most of the cases. Stereotype here is women are expected to stay indoors and not expected to participate in worldly affairs. There's patriarchy to decide what is in favor of women and what is not, this being the scenario across different nations. Women have raised their voice demanding freedom from clutches of patriarchy and space to decide for themselves. That has won them partial space of importance, but stereotyping may well be the principal dampener. Stereotyping leads to objectification, which considers women to be an object and ought to be utilized. As has been outlined in the theoretical perspectives, D.H. Gruenfeld et al. State that objectification tries to qualify a person positively in the viewer's gaze and necessarily indicates to criteria that makes it happen. Objectification is all about elements of physical appearance which can stimulate interest within the observer. According to M.C. Nussbaum, instrumentality, violability, inertia, property, restrictions on autonomy, denying of subjectivity and fungibility are the constituents of objectification. Instrumentality positions women as an instrument to satisfy certain requirements which lead to violability or the privilege of patriarchy to violate women will knowing that society has not granted them power to oppose prevailing system. This reflected in inertia, which too underlines the ineffective positioning of women to react to wrongs of patriarchy. In being viewed as property, women are physically owned and also sold. She can be loaned to. The women denied space and autonomy to function, tantamount to restriction of autonomy. It also gets magnified in low quantum of opportunities for women in professional spheres. The denial of subjectivity is manifested through indifference to experience of women and their initial and physical well-being. Fungibility related to property ownership highlights the interchangeability of one woman from other. Women perceived to soft and naive are parented by patriarchy and lack of experience cited for denial of decision-making rights. They are property of patriarchy who can force them away from education and into marriage, sometimes to settle family debt. Women do not have the freedom to take decisions, and stereotyping requires them to accept whatever is decided on their behalf. All such practices promoting stereotyping and objectification are real and impact the life of women daily. And media has unfortunately not done much to aid dismantling of such practices. I know that many of the participants in this webinar, you might not, identify yourself in this picture and this scenario. But unfortunately, this is the case in most of the society, and even in the developed societies also, not only in India. Now, I would like to give an international approach of depiction of women in media. So, and I'll start from 1990s actually. This decade remained witness to concerted efforts producers of popular television shows to put forth the subservient credentials of women. Shows for children therefore have superheroes who are males. Women are accorded side roles which portray them as object or property of the hero. Among the young minds, this implants the perception that males are powerful compared to women, and therefore exploring the outside world is their domain. Women are meant to aid men in the process if required. Researcher Brown said, basis on their analysis of shows which are beamed by MTV during the 1990s, points all shows being promoters and aiding strengthening of objectification and stereotyping of women. Gyrating women are present to satiate the male viewers. Such shows have also portrayed male characters as harassing and flirting with women on the pretext of being aficionados of their beauty. Researcher Texture too highlighted objectification of women in the form of music videos. Analyzing Afro-American music videos, Texture maintains that women are projected from the lens of objectification. Researcher Kraft had drawn attention to how presentation of a woman host of a current affairs program, for example, differs from that of a male host. The latter is projected as more incisive and aggressive than the former. Objectification and stereotyping is perpetuated by advertisements, has been the conclusion of different studies. One such work has been done by Mers and Rosenbaum, who have noted that commercials tend to position male characters as guides of female characters, and objectification angle cannot be missed. Even researcher Nigro emphasizes on role of media to reinforce objectification and stereotyping by showing women as docile, surrendering, and vulnerable. Doing so, media justifies why patriarchy should continue to assume responsibility of women members. On the subject of portrayal of women in films, J.T. Wood links emergence of feminist movements and the making of promotion of films which showcase women as strong and capable of taking care of themselves and their families, thus negating the need for patriarchal supervision. And there is a very relevant example. Alice doesn't live here anymore. I don't know how many of you have seen this. Even television soaps of 1970s, long back, were announcing the rise of the self-dependent female who harbors ambition and can work for its achievement. One Day at a Time, the soap, showcasing the tribulations of a divorced female character to take control of situation and life, gained immense popularity. As feminist movements started facing opposition and criticism of patriarchy, media swayed and objectification, stereotyping was leveraged to satisfy male viewers. A divergent film in this light was Pretty Woman. I think many of you have seen this. Pretty Woman, which positioned the male lead not as exploitative of the women, rather facilitating that particular female character progression from a life of a prostitute to one of respectability. The film masterfully ignited the debate about why must men always have an exploitative attitude and outlook towards women. They can also aid them in progressing in life and learning, take decisions on their own. Even magazines contributed in cascading the aspects of women as objects and required to abide by certain stereotype norms. During the 1990s, magazines projected, even in the 2000, this decade, magazines projected women as worthy supporters for their families and male members. A pertinent magazine advertisement which conveys this message was published in Good Housekeeping during 1990s. It explained why women are better housekeepers than men and thus drew attention to the work women does for which they don't even receive their dues. Good Housekeeping followed up the first advertisement with a second one which saluted the coming to fore of women who undertake to employ their traditional role to best affect women. The publication explained the mission of these women to add more fun and invigorating experiences into life and routines of the family and self. Now, let me get into the Indian scenario. We have seen, and many researchers had argued, that since most media establishments in the country are headed by males, women representation is minuscule. Male journalists and management members do not display concern, mostly, or empathy when women report about problems faced at work or otherwise. This leads to minimal level of coverage related to women and their issues. When compared, column space dedicated to discussions which caters to interests of the men. Media does report about criminal acts which are conducted against members of the female gender, but the time and space allotment is not judicious. In electronic media, it is shown as ticker or briefly in news capsules. In print, it is given small column space, mostly in inside pages. Viewers and readers thus do not accord to due importance to such acts of violation against women. Researcher S.K. Sharma has criticized the way media has objectified women in the post-globalization era, ignoring issues having immediate impact on well-being of women and progression of their lives. It views the absence of action-oriented debates about torments women are subjected to, so that crime rates against them can be arrested. Neither print media nor electronic media show enthusiasm in devising programs which can potentially correct the prevailing image of women. Rumors and gossips are what rage higher though, with details of women, cinestars and well-known personalities are dissected in the daily media. This corrodes the position of women in society, absolutely corrodes. Magazines also fail to publish with regularity stories about women disadvantages, though weekly publication of column to discuss about gynecological issues and problems related to relation with husband or boyfriend. Further, degradation of women position is brought about by television soaps. They show women as evil, plotting the downfall of others and inert members of the family. They are always well-groomed and adorned in jewelry. They live in luxury and comfort without making any financial contributions in any way. They thus are taken care of by patriarchy, and in them, women find protection. Women of these serials have a perceived reality about themselves which is not necessarily connected to who they actually are. So researchers also note how objectification of women is promoted by advertisements, presenting them with vulgar undertones for satisfaction of males. Additionally, researcher S.S. Roy underlines media's role in aiding corporates perpetuate objectification of women in their advertisement campaigns, irrespective of what the product category be. S.J. Schoffer examined nearly 2,000 advertisement campaigns which were shown by media in India and underlines the desirability of women as slim, attractive, young, fair tone, and with shiny and soft hair. Objectification and commodification of gender is Go Media Project's women in this country. So after discussing all such, negative points, and of course the way things are going, are happening, or we have been experiencing this. So now a few rays of hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was very, very insightful information for us. We have some international participants with us. Miss Inga from Germany. Ma'am, do you want to add on something? Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, I'm surprised you're calling me up. Yes, I'm Inga Weller. I'm working for Medica Mondiale. It's a German or international feminist women's rights organization. So I would like to thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to listen to you. And well, media has not been so much our focus. We are working actually against sexualized violence in conflict zones. And we've previously been in touch with Mark, in fact. So basically, thank you for sharing that, because I will definitely, maybe you can send me some links also, which I can share with my colleagues. We are in fact not working in India yet, but we would be very thankful if we could share that with our partners, for example, in Afghanistan, but also in many African countries. So thank you for bringing me into the center of this discussion, but I think it's more important that your participants can also share your thoughts and questions with the speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and we'll surely share the link with you. Okay. Coming back to Dr. Moushami, ma'am, we have a lot of question on the participants want to know that they want you to elaborate more on normative discontent. Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself. Yes. Can you hear? Can you hear?
I have unmuted myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the specific question on this normative discontent?
They just want to know this terminology. What does it mean? They want an explanation.
Acha. Okay, fine. This normative discontent is something like, by the way, if I can see the questions, that would be better for me. If you can just read out the question, only the terminology, or they want to ask something related to this?
Only the terminology, ma'am.
Okay. So as I say that this is a term actually has been coined by Michael Tigerman and A. Slater. So they say the image of the desired women. So if we all know that we all have we have something like the way I think how a woman should be. So that image of the desired woman, or if I can say like that, the image of a desired male. So that created and projected my media. So, there is a conflict between, it might happen that whatever I am thinking, that goes along with the media. But most of the time we have seen that there is a reality and there is a projected reality, right? So it fails to have an impact within such individual. Like what I am thinking as a desired image, if I see that whatever is being projected by the media, which is actually not gelling with my idea, that comes as normative discontent.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to request Ms. Tarsia Taman from Malaysia to please add on in this and speak something about this topic.
Hello, Frankly. Can you see me?
No, we can't see you, ma'am.
Oh, because I think you have already.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
can you see me
we
now?
can. Yes, yes, yes.
Hi,
We can.
thank
Hi.
you for it. I am Tasia from Malaysia. It was a wonderful chance for me to be included in this Zoom seminar. Well, I would like to add here because the professor was talking about media and women. In Malaysia, especially the advertisements, the Malaysian government already bans on the use of women to portray like sex symbol. Except for cosmetics and family products, we are no longer using women for the advertisement. I'm not so sure what they do in India. I'm also an advocate in women empowerment. This is my forte. I would like to share that in Malaysia, we have yet to attain the 30% target. So I hope that in India, you will be reaching that target very soon. Thank you for sharing with me.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Pankuri, I would like to request you something here.
Yes,
I
yes.
can see the managing editor of Pari is here.
Okay.
She's a very good speaker, Namita Vaikar.
Okay, ma'am.
So, Namita, if you can, if you want to add something, please. I have
Please, ma'am.
Yeah, Namita, can you please unmute yourself and just say a few things? Namita, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Namita. Yes, good afternoon.
We welcome you, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. I wasn't expecting to speak here.
I know, but you can add few points the way you are doing things.
Yeah,
Please,
I think I would just like to add here something more about Pari that we cover. There are 2-3 aspects about women that I want to stress here. One is that we cover the stories of women, Dalit women and Adivasis as separate categories, and we focus on them. And the second is that we have a lot of contributors who are women, at least 50% or sometimes even more, the authors or the photographers, the videographers, a lot of them are women. So we try to see that at least 50%, if not more, of our authors are women. And we try to encourage people, women from underprivileged sections of society also to pitch in and contribute, and we try to train them if they are not trained journalists. And I think one of those things of training journalists is something that your speaker Maushmi does through her role as the associate professor, and several of the interns from Shantiniketan, many of them women, have contributed to Pari. So I think participation of more women in media itself is a good thing, and it would impact how women are portrayed in media. I think that's all I can add. Thank you for calling me on to speak over here. Thanks. This was a wonderful discussion.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
And Pankuri, I can see that a lot of professors are there in the list. Few of us sent me private messages, but I don't know whether they are still here.
Okay, ma'am.
They can share their views.
Yes, if any of you can want to share something or want to add on this topic, so please. Okay. I think they're not there.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So if there is any question.
Yes, I think we'll take 2 questions more, ma'am, because it's already 5.
Yeah.
So, So, okay, I'll take 2 questions. The first question is how to make our contemporary media more gender sensitive and gender inclusive.
It's a very we always ask this question to us. We ask this question to our friends in contemporary media. And we do organize a lot of conferences, seminars, and all. So, what is happening? What I can say is that yes, making them sensible. It's not that they also don't want. I won't say, and we should not always blame it on media also. It's a cliche, like media reflects society. So what kind of content actually we want from media, that matters a lot. Because yeah, most of the people in the senior positions in media, they say we cater to our readers, what they want. So, and we do give priorities to their feedback through letters to editor and all. So from their point of view, that they are doing justice to the feedback. So the more we hammer on such things, the more we want things from media, that might change. In fact, I'm telling you, I'm with this media studies for the last 20 years, but scenario has not changed much. But yes, with the advent of social media, what is happening, we can see that you all also know that if something is being written or shared like by common people, like more and more, so that immediately comes into the fray, like in the mainstream media. So we all have something we in our hand which you can do. If the mainstream media is not, quote unquote, mainstream media, by the way, they are not giving importance to certain issue. So if we, the common people, we start writing about in large numbers, eventually it will come to their print or their channel. That is what my feeling is. Otherwise, people are sensible.
Very true, very true, ma'am. Okay, we have Miss Supriya from US. I would like to invite her to add on some few words. Miss Supriya.
Really nice and interesting talk. And this is actually a really, really important topic, because women are now, they are in politics, they are in field of science, and it really matters how they are being portrayed, how young girls are perceiving the image of women. So it's a really important topic. And sorry, just to let you know a little bit about myself. I'm Supriya. I used to work at Marg long time back. And I used to practice law there in India, domestic violence, sexual harassment at workplace. And now I've moved to the US, and I do work which is very relevant to the topic. So I talk about like a lot of women's rights issues on my blog and on my YouTube channel. So that's what I'm currently doing. And yeah, again, thank you to Mosmi and Marg for this talk.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Supriya.
Ma'am, I think we'll take the last question for the discussion. Yeah. The pandemics.
Pankhuri and Professor Mosmi, I have one suggestion here. Can this last question be from any male from this?
Yeah, actually,
sure.
I will see that no one has commented on, none has.
Sorry.
I think what
Yeah,
they
sure,
feel
why
and
not?
what is there.
Why not? Yeah, Pankhuri, it's over.
Yeah. Yes, please. Any male present in this discussion can raise the question directly to the speaker.
Yeah, they can come on the speaker.
Yes.
Nur Alam. Call Nur Alam to comment.
Is anyone asking the question?
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Kevin Nisar from SIS College. Currently, I am in third year of Bachelor's of Mass Media. So,
we can't hear you, Kevin.
hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am Kevin Nisar from SIS College.
Yes. Please ask your question.
Yeah, so my question is, women are portrayed in ads and we can say films as sexual objects in condom ads. And so what's your point of view on that? Like, can we avoid or raise our voice against it?
I think I have already answered it, Kevin, in my previous question. Like, if, of course, the senior position people, they also say that, like, we do take care of our feedback system. So, Kevin, can I ask you one question back? So,
Yes.
have you ever written anything on this on your social media page?
Yeah, so actually I am a writer and I keep writing on the social issues and posting on my Instagram page.
Very good. So, Kevin, like students like you, the young minds like you, if you actually raise your voice against it, and if you actually show the strength to the entire advertisement world and the media, that what kind of coverage you want, and you do not want objectification of women. So, I guess, of course, someday will arrive that we will be reach to that level, what actually you are expecting.
Yes. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I think it was a wonderful discussion, and I think it was very, very informative. We are getting really good feedbacks from our participants. So as we have already exceeded our time. So I would like to thank you, ma'am, for your precious time and to be part of this discussion. And I would also like to thank all the participants to spare their time with us. Thank you so much. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.